Thanks, Toby. Thanks, Ian. So Humphrey Appleby had a line in an episode of the old sitcom, Yes, Prime Minister. We must do something. This is something. Therefore, we must do this. And this is known, of course, as a politician's fallacy. But I think there's an education system version of this, which is kids are lacking X, schools teach kids, therefore schools should teach X. And we saw this a lot at the Department for Education. Famously, the special advisors used to keep a list on the wall of things that campaigning groups had demanded were on the curriculum: gardening, Japanese, mindfulness, British values. And the schools fallacy isn't a fallacy because any of these subjects are bad. Obviously, just to be clear, I'm very pro-gardening, I'm very pro-Japanese. And mindfulness technically is on the curriculum, of course, if we do it properly and call it by its proper name of prayer. No, the schools fallacy is a fallacy for two very compelling reasons. Firstly, there just isn't enough time in the school week to do everything. So if something goes on, another thing goes off, and you have to decide what that thing is. But secondly, and as Ian said, much more importantly, we mostly have absolutely no idea how to teach many of these desirable abstract nouns that people think children should learn at school: respect, anti-extremism, Britishness. Let me try to explain more with a metaphor and an example. So my metaphor, I found out quite recently the precise meaning of the phrase point blank with reference to weaponry or ballistics. So it doesn't just mean close, which is how we use it in language. It means the range between the weapon and the target where you don't have to adjust for trajectory. So it's gun dependent, of course. Yes, with a small firearm, you have to be pretty close, but with a tank or a rifle, you can be quite far away. And as soon as I found this out, I realised what a perfect, helpful metaphor this is for public policy. Because the most effective levers a politician has, of course, are the point blank ones, where you can make a decision in Whitehall and have a direct, immediate, predictable effect. So changing the EBAC accountability measure was a point-blank policy by including specific core subjects, English, math, science, a language, geography or history, in the A to C GCSE performance tables a school has to publish, rather than just any 5 A to C subjects. There was an immediate and unambiguous incentive for schools to focus on making sure pupils were literate and numerate. But most policy goals aren't point blank. And the art of successful politics, policy making, government is how well you understand and manage the adjustment for trajectory. Forgive me, I like this metaphor, but it's a bit contrived. The least point blank policies, of course, are those relating to fixing society. Because as soon as you, as Ian brilliantly said, as soon as you start using curriculum time for social cohesion or other contemporary issues of concern, perverse incentives and unintended consequences creep in. You can't adjust for trajectory because there's so many unknown unknowns. And so an example, and not a very nice one, forgive me again, female genital mutilation, FGM. The Guardian had a campaign against it in 2014. And to be clear, I've never actually met anyone who's for it. Those who are for it belong in jail. We have laws about the mutilation of children. But one of the Guardian's requests was that the Department for Education write to all schools to raise awareness of FGM. Now, we probably knew exactly which parts of the country, which micro-communities had a potential problem with FGM. And with a bit of local joined-up enforcement, we could probably have found the handful of doctors or teachers who maybe knew what was happening and were turning a blind eye. But the Guardian was persistent, the campaign was very high profile, and the department did end up writing to 27,000 schools. It did absolutely nothing to address those places where FGM was a problem, of course. And my strong hunch is that it probably undermined tolerance and understanding. So imagine the teacher in the small rural primary school, 99% white, culturally Christian primary school I went to in East Riding. The teacher gets a letter from the department, diligently prints off the Wikipedia page on FGM and tries to have a conversation about it with a group of 9 to 11-year-olds. Do you think that he or she is successfully doing so without demonising or stereotyping other races or religions? So about the only thing we do know, and we know it for sure, is that the best possible way for a young person to become the author of their life story, to overcome any constraints of their background, is to be able to read and write and have aspirations for their future. It's about the only thing we know for sure. It's a point-blank policy. Andreas Schleicher, the OECD education advisor, once noted that internationally comparatively, the UK has the broadest but also the shallowest curriculum, because we've put a lot of things into the curriculum that we expect teachers to teach and schools to signal and Ofsted to inspect, partly as a result of very successful lobbying campaigns by single interest groups. Kids are lacking X, schools teach kids, therefore schools should teach X. So if we conclude that schools should fix society, can fix society, we are in danger of pretending that we know the exact things that teachers can effectively do to reduce knife crime or tackle extremism. And in doing so, in concentrating our efforts on that, we're in danger of forgetting what we know actually does work: learning to read, reading to learn. So schools can't explicitly fix broken Britain, if we're accepting the premise that Britain's broken, and nor should they. But to finish on a more positive note, the great thing about a good school or a good further education college is that they're a microcosm of society, and the rules that they set, the standards they expect, the daily rhythms and character built through tenacity in study, fair play at sports, deferred gratification encouraged in learning languages or music, the manners they insist on, the examples of virtue they give, those have a good chance of staying with those pupils through to adulthood, and they do influence rounded human beings and happy families. And in that way, indirectly, as Ian said, not directly, schools have always fixed society, and they always will.
Excellent.